welcome to Quantum Heart Rising. My name's Christina Lavers, and this is video 3. I'm still getting a feeling for things. I'm still seeing this as a bit of a sandboxed stage where I can just play and explore and try things out. So today, what I wanted to talk about was aspects of self, parts work. What is that? So the idea of parts therapy is looking at an individual, but as an individual made up of different aspects of self. So at different times, we can have different parts of us that are coming into the driver's seat. For example, when we get triggered, that usually is a shadow part that ends up in the driver's seat. But that's what happens when we are completely unaware. So there's different parts coming in at different times. When we do take the time to really look within and really get to know what parts are there, what parts are really active, it can become such a powerful way to self-organize. In a lot of the work that I do, I talk about the table of self. And that's the idea that we can create anything that we're moving forward towards, that we want, like a goal. We will usually have parts of us that are absolutely on board with it, and parts of us that are, really not on board with it. So in the last video or the first video, I was talking about the parts of me that want to get comfortable speaking publicly. And how I've also got parts that are terrified of that are terrified of stepping into the spotlight. So when this is an unconscious thing and we're not really aware and we're just, trying to move forward, move towards what we want to get to, the parts of us that don't like the idea will often be quietly in the background on an unconscious level, digging their heels in. And this is often what we experience as self-sabotage. It could be getting sick, whatever it is. We're not getting smoothly to where we want to go to. And so it can be really valuable to really sit and work with the parts and get to know the parts and try to find out what the different parts of us need to feel like they are prepared to get on board with it. I just want to share a little bit about how the whole parts thing came to my awareness. It was during the period that I'm calling the magical blue period. I used to just call it the blue period, but I feel like that can be confused with the idea of depression, and I think magical blue is a little bit more accurate. It's the period that I speak about in my book, Jump into the Blue, and it's definitely the most pivotal year of my life that absolutely completely transformed the way I look at reality. So I will be getting into it in future episodes as well, and more aspects of it and more in depth. But anyway, today, all I want to share is just a piece of that relates to the idea of parts. So during that time, I had much more access, direct access to, what we might call beyond the veil, to what normally is unseen or undetected. So in that time, I would often connect with guides, and it started becoming a regular thing that in the evenings I would go in and settle in, go into a sort of meditative state and receive teachings. And on this one particular day, I sort of got ready, and when the teaching came through, it was, "We're going to go to your basement today." And my basement, what does that mean? I lived in an apartment, I didn't have a basement. But I was like, okay, what does that mean? And it was like, okay, I want you to bring your awareness and move it through your being. And so I was like moving and go down, down, down. I'm going down. It's like go further. And I kind of get to what feels like the end. It's like my feet. And it's like, go further. And I go further. And when I did, this is when suddenly this child aspect came into my awareness. It was a version of me that was furious, really angry. And my initial instinct, seeing this child in distress within myself was to want to reach out and give it some love. but it not have a bar of that. It was like get away. It was angry at me, which surprised me. Like, why is this child aspect angry at me? What did I do? And when I actually listened, it said, I have been sending you distress messages for so long. I've been sending you these messages, and every time you just ignore them. And right when that came through, I knew exactly what it was talking about. It was like every so often this bad feeling would sort of come up, something, "Ooh," and I would, look away, find something else to put my attention to. It's true, completely would tr ignore it because I didn't know what it was. Just thought it was a bad, uncomfortable feeling I didn't particularly want to feel, so focus on something else and move on. So that was really the first time that I realized, wow, so I've got this part within me that is really angry with me and really needs some love and some healing. So that was the very, very, very start. Now, after the magical blue period, I didn't have such direct access as I did in that time in terms of guidance. But I continued to explore myself, my inner world. That continued to be important. And so fast forward many years, and there was a friend that I had connected with, and we both connected over the fact that we understood really innately the problems with spiritual bypassing and how in the spiritual community there was just such a heavy focus on light. And again, this is a whole episode in itself, so I won't get too into it, but we both really understood that we are full spectrum beings and that light and dark are both part of the whole, and that evil isn't an absence of light, it's an absence of love. When the dark contains love, it's beautiful. That's what, you look at concepts of the womb, that's what we grow out of. That dark, there's nothing evil about it. It's beautiful when it's imbued with love. But when we have a tendency to be afraid of the dark and we can withdraw love. And when love is absent in the dark, then and in the light, it can become evil. So we both had that awareness, and we were both coming from, I guess, a more soul retrieval perspective and really working together and finding these aspects of ourselves that had been lost through time. And I can remember sharing it with my mother, who's a psychotherapist, and uh, we have a really we can meet around psychotherapy, but the spiritual aspect we don't meet on. She's a very rational person based in the material, and um I'm not. I have a part that is, but generally I tend to be anchored more towards spiritual, I guess you could say. But she was studying something called IFS, and when I would share with her pieces of what my friend and I were discovering. And she's like, wow, this actually reminds me a lot of what I'm studying, IFS. And then my friend ended up enrolling in an IFS training course in level one and went on to do level two. And I very much traveled alongside of her. So kind of learning vicariously through her. Because for me, I didn't feel called to go specifically and exclusively into IFS. I found IFS really important, but it didn't really feel like where I was meant to be. And in hypnotherapy, there is also a concept of parts work, parts therapy or ego states. And so I became influenced very much by all of these ideas, kind of all of them inform the work that I do, but none of them I specifically adhere to. I feel that they have different strengths, which again I'll go into in another video. But I just really want to keep these short to start with. Hopefully, as time goes on, I will be able to go a little bit longer, but I certainly can do the talking. It's the editing afterwards. It can become overwhelming to me. So just taking it little steps at a time. So I'll just finish here, leaving you just to contemplate just that idea of getting familiar with the forces operating within. Because the more that we get familiar with the forces of our inner world, the more that we can create an inner world that is cohesive and clear and where essentially we have a team that we can gather to move forward rather than a haphazard, um, chaotic group of aspects all pulling in different directions. So I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a beautiful week, and I will see you next time.